So, guys, my preamble topic, right? 25 years of Pokemon. It's a long time.
Yeah. It's almost as old as us, Hans.
Yeah, that is a horrifying
it's closer to being
thought,
as old
isn't
as me.
Nah.
Nick, you don't count.
Okay.
You're the youngest one here. You don't count. Whenever you get back pain for absolutely no reason, then come talk to us.
Got back there from carrying your unfunny asses. Mic drop.
Wow.
Don't drop the mic. That's 50 quid.
That's less than Persona 5 Strikers.
True.
It is. Yes. So, my preamble topic is to all of these. What's your favorite Pokemon game?
Okay.
Doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like the core.
Okay, it
the
doesn't need to be
core
a
game.
main series game.
Yeah, it could be like Gale Darkness. It could be Coliseum. All that stuff. What's your favorite Pokemon game?
I'm going to say Yellow, because it's the first one I completed the Pokédex in.
Not even. I love how that you're like how much you flex with that. It wasn't even just. That's the first one I completed. It was I completed the entire Pokédex.
Yep. And then by extension, then trading the Pokemon from that to my Blue game, I completed the Pokédex in Blue as well. Just saying.
I'm gonna say Pokemon Gold, OG Gold, because I think like I appreciate the series a lot more then, and also the idea like whenever you beat the Elite Four and then you realize, wait, I get to go through the OG world again and do that, and then fight Red at the end. Like that shit's sick.
So
And all the Pokemon are in it at that time, which becomes an issue later on in the games. Also Wooper, my boy, shout out, he's in that game.
Boo.
Yes, yeah.
More like booper.
Oh shit! Also, the Pokemon trading card game is also a banger.
Yeah,
for the Game Boy, was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guy. I know. I've got my answer.
Yeah.
My favorite Pokemon game is Temtem.
I do want to play that at some point.
Yeah, that could be your game, man.
Probably Alpha Sapphire. Because Sapphire, like Generation 3 is my favorite generation, and then they just made it better with the remakes.
Okay. I'm torn. I'm kind of like IY. From a how good a game it is standpoint, I'd probably go with Silver. Because, how fucking amazing is it that you go through the entirety of Johto, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. Wait, hold on. I get to play the entirety of the previous game as well? Fuck yeah. But from an emotional standpoint, I kind of want to say Pearl.
I thought you were going to say Pokemon the movie.
I was going to say Pokemon Go.
That is also
so
actually,
emotional.
To be fair, Pokemon Go is not bad. It was better than we thought it was going to be. No, I would say Pearl, because it was the first one I actually remember. Like, I remember beating the Elite Four. Like, I know I did beat the Elite Four in Gold, and I know that. Silver, and I know that, but I don't remember it because I was so much younger. But I remember beating the Elite Four in Pearl.
So I haven't actually played that many generations of Pokemon. I skipped loads.
Yeah, I went from Gen 1, Gen 2. So let me tell you a story. So I remember, right, as a kid. So back in the day, there was like this offer where you could buy Sapphire and Ruby, and I thought, there was obviously this offer. And I'm like a kid, right? Like obviously, my brother or mother or whoever was going to buy us, the bundle. That way, my brother and I could both have a game. It's like, no, that did not happen. I was very, very sad. And obviously, back then, a game could only have one save file, right?
Yeah.
So you couldn't even share it, really. But yeah, I went from Gen 1, Gen 2 to Gen 5, which is black and white, right?
Yeah.
And then Sword and Shield. So
I think the only generation I skipped has
I have
been
one
Sun
more
and Moon.
generation on you because I got X.
Well, I was waiting for Z, man. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
You're going to be waiting a long ass time.
Yeah, I went blue, yellow. I think I went gold. And then white. Or was it black? I can't remember.
One of them. Once you go black, you don't go back. So.
And then X. No, obviously the Sword and Shield.
I can actually...
Still waiting for Pokemon Gun.
I still remember... Like, I have vague memories of actually going to Toys R Us to get Pokemon Blue. Like, so I remember it being that big a deal. And I can still remember parts of my first playthrough of Blue. Because, like, I did what every kind of kid does, and that is just use my starter over and over and over again, so it was so OP. And I could... My starter back then was Squirtle. I remember by the time I hit Mount Moon, I had a Wartortle, but fuck me, could I get past Lieutenant Surge, because everything else was like level 2 Rattata, level 30 Wartortle.
I remember having to get those bloody link cables so you could trade Pokemon to evolve stuff. Them.
Yeah, that was rough.
Hans, wait, Hans. You always pick the fire starter. Why would you have a Wartortle?
Because it was my first time and I was inexperienced. You know, like how everyone's first time.
Because I always pick the water starter, because if we ever battle, I need to have the better starter than you. And that's how petty I am.
So what you're saying is you are the Gary of...
Yeah. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Not So Super Bash Bros presents Game Club for it's February, yeah?
It's February.
Okay. For February 2021. Yes, Game Club is back. The monthly video podcast review thing where we take turn picking games, go play them for the month, and come back and discuss them for your listening pleasure. This month, Hans picked No Man... Oh, I haven't done any research. I didn't write down any of the release information. Oh... This month, Hans picked No Man's Sky, the survival game from Hello Games. And as ever, I am your host, Nick No Man's Sky Davis, joined by Hans No Man's Land Davis.
What about you?
Alex No Country for Old Men Proudfoot.
Hello.
And IY It's Raining Men Chung.
Hell yeah.
What's up, everybody?
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Talk amongst yourselves while I get the release information up, please. I have it written down on my PC upstairs, but I get relegated to downstairs when we record now.
Alex, we'll give a wee preview. How's Apex Legends going?
Great. It's going great.
As you can hear the gun being cocked behind your head.
No, he's busy because he's playing it right now.
Yeah, that was not what it is. Yeah, distracted.
I've actually finished 10 matches in the time we've been recording.
Have you won yet?
You've been the first one to die.
Have I won yet? No. I've come second.
Second's not bad.
Do you think you'll win by the time you're done with it?
Absolutely not, Nick.
Do you think if IY and I were your partners, you would win?
Hey, IY downloaded it and we played it and we didn't win, so...
Hey, that's only half of the equation. You need full team communication.
Hey, if you want to download it and join my suffering, feel free.
Maybe.
Like, it's okay.
I watched him play it for a bit. There's a lot of sliding.
Yeah, there is.
That's what I'm saying.
It's made by the Titanfall developers.
Yeah, but like,
if there's a lot of sliding. Like downward slope, you have to slide down it. That's the rule.
Like, it's just like the guys were like, you know what's cool? When people slide in the cover, let's make an entire game where movement is 80% that.
It's okay, guys. I got the release information.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's right.
Yes!
2016.
What?
2016.
Hang on, spoilers.
Yes. Away from
No Man's Sky, originally released on PS4 and PC in August 2016, with a later release on the Xbox and the new generation of consoles. So, before we go into our categories, I have to ask, how far did everyone get in No Man's Sky?
Before we answer this, Nick.
Yes?
How do you measure nothing?
What do you mean?
Is there a way to measure this game in terms of completion?
Well,
Yes.
there is an end.
Yes,
As in-
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, 100%.
There is a
yeah.
you can reset your cycle. Like there is a point where it asks you, do you want to restart?
And a lot of people press no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, there's an absolute end. I believe it's about 4 to 5 sectors or galaxies.
Hyper
and the only way you do that-
light jumps.
Yeah, light speed jump sort of thing, yeah. Nick,
I
how far did you get?
did not even make the. I know I made one light speed jump, I think, and then I give up. Hands.
10 hours, which equates to about 2 light speed jumps.
But you had reached the center of the universe previously, hadn't you?
Like when it
when it first came out, yeah.
first came out. It's a very different game from then.
Alex.
So, I actually jumped 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the map, and I wasn't even halfway towards the black hole, which I assume is the end.
Yeah.
So,
Jumping the wrong way.
So there's
no,
that.
I was following that path.
Oh, why?
Do you know?
Oh, why did you, wait,
February.
okay, yeah. Did you even get off of that first planet we all started on?
So do you know how February is the shortest month? This was the shortest amount of time I played a game that I started. I literally only played for that session where we were all together and we all kept disconnecting, but I'm sure we'll get to that. So we jumped to like one planet.
We
Was
got
it
off the
one
first
We
planet.
flew to a planet.
Yeah, we flew. Yeah. So not very long.
Okay. So, as ever, I have broken this down into 3 categories.
Nick, what are the categories?
Gameplay.
It's shit.
Environment and characters.
Also, shit.
And finally, what makes a good survival game?
Not this.
Spoilers, not being shit.
So our first category, gameplay. As I have mentioned there, No Man's Sky is at its core, a survival game. You are constantly going from planet to planet, building up resources, trying to find resources to like do or top up things like your life support, your hazmat protection, like protection on your suit, and constantly be able to like fuel your jet. Your jet? Is it a jet ship? Spaceship?
It's a spaceship,
Spaceship.
right? It goes into
Jet
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, spaceship.
Fuel your spaceship, you can find different trading outposts and talk to them, and the underlying gameplay loop is you're trying to go from planet to planet and fuel your hyperlight drive to do lightspeed jumps to get to the center of the universe. And kind of on each of the planets, you are mining for resources, dealing with the local wildlife and fauna, and just kind of exploring. And in terms of just the core gameplay and the loop of it, it is very bog standard survival game, I think. It's constantly like you're constantly battling and like spinning all these plates around. Oh, I need to find carbon because I need to top up my life support, or I need to top up my haz protection and shit like that. And it's just, it falls into so many tropes that we now associate with every survival game like Ark or Rust or Conan Exiles or just any survival game that's kind of going these days. And it doesn't do a lot to kind of break that mold in my views, and I wonder what you guys think. I personally don't have a lot of experience with survival games. I've never really dipped into any of them. And I know this was probably a lot of people's first kind of take on that. Like probably the closest I think any of us have really got was probably playing Don't Starve a fair bit.
I played Terraria and
I wouldn't call Terraria a survival game.
Starbound, though, is. It has like crafting and like having to feed yourself and water yourself. But like, there's a word you said.
Is there starvation in Starbound?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
there is.
There was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was. Oh no, there is.
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
yeah.
to.
Yeah, there still is. Yeah.
I remember we had to cook. We had to do something.
Because like you get like you do the farming stuff or like the you can make tomatoes and all that. Nick, there's a word you said there a couple of times, and it highlights my biggest issue with this game. You
Survival?
said constant. No, constant. Good couple of times you said constant or constantly. This game, literally everything you do, literally it requires a resource. everything. Your life support, which is fine, because life support is kind of like the hunger in this game. But like your basic mining tool requires resource as well.
That's like durability, right? In other games, I guess.
But in the likes of Minecraft, you use your fists as your very basic resource gathering thing. That doesn't take anything. In the likes of Starbound, you have your mining tool, like your matter gun, I think it's called. That doesn't require anything. And Terraria,
The tools don't break.
the tool did. Yeah, I was saying, like your very basic way of gathering resources should not require resource itself, because it's just like it's everything. Like the fact that your spaceship only has so many times you can take off before you have to refill it. The fact that you're like you have to gather so many items so you can jump between like the to craft the antimatter stuff to get the light speed jump fuel. It's constant to the point where you're just always looking like, can I really do this before I have to like run around like a dickhead and, you know, get all my resources to start again? It feels like every time you every planet you land on, you're almost starting from scratch again, and that really pissed me off.
So
So that's the thing.
go ahead.
Alright, yeah, so, hey man, I didn't play a lot of the game. You gotta let me talk whenever I can, right? But, like, from what I understood the game, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But the thing that was kind of, like, really, I think as Hans pointed out, like, the thing that kind of annoyed me, not annoyed, but, like, the thing I don't like, or rather, like, in these games, the thing that I find most interesting in these games is, like, the building aspect, right? It's, or as people call it, it's nesting, right? Where you, like, create a
Wait,
home.
what? I've never heard that phrase.
Yeah, so I've actually heard this phrase like quite a bit recently. So yeah, whenever you have these games, like whenever I played Terraria with like Alex and Bunchy, like they would go off and actually like play the game and do shit, and I would be like just like left to just like build stuff.
So you were the
like,
wife.
You were the bitch.
No. They had to like take care of food and shit themselves. I just built stuff. I was just like
they
the
were
carpenter they
hunters
hired.
and you were the wife.
Yeah. But like in this game, you are like resetting, right? For the most part, every time you jump.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that, because then at that point, like, what is the progression in the game?
Yeah.
Right. Like, what's cool about these other games? Like, oh, you can see your homes get cooler and cooler shit, right? As I assume you're doing like Valheim, Nick, yeah? It's like, you're like actively seeing like progress being made. But then in No Man's Sky, I almost forgot what game we were playing. You're always going back to like almost zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't seem...
What I will say, it encourages you to set up a base and put a portal in the base that allows you to travel to like the stations.
But
Yeah. Go ahead, Hans.
that also requires resource and
Yeah,
energy
it
fuel.
does.
So Alex is completely right. So you can link up your bases and stuff via like Stargate 1 portals. And that's kind of how you travel between galaxies without having the light speed jump. But it requires resource to do that. So every time you jump to a new galaxy, you're starting your base from scratch. But then you have to go through the entire process again of getting enough to build a quote unquote a furnace, then to go ahead and get enough to get cobalt metal, then to go and get the build the thing you need to then go and get to build another Stargate, so you can then jump between. Like, it's just the same cycle every galaxy, every planet. It doesn't stop.
And do you know what makes the whole thing worse in my eyes? The fact that to craft some of the key things, you need to buy them. You cannot make certain things. You have to buy them from the market.
Yeah.
And the main way to get credits is obviously find and sell stuff, but also scan.
Oh. So you say the basic things are like the things that piss you off. Like the fact you get a furnace. I kind of disagree with that. What pisses me off is if I want to go and build a fucking chair that I can't even interact with, so it's purely there for like cosmetic looks, it requires you to actually go and buy linen, which is like 100 odd grand worth of
Jesus.
units to build a chair that you can't interact with. Like, what the fuck? Like, how ass backwards is that?
I
Like,
think
it hurts.
for story progression, I needed to buy 2 things of 45k each.
Oh,
And it's just like, because if you are only scanning stuff and like mining and gathering what you need to progress, you do not have a lot of credits. Because you scan something, if it's rare, you get like a couple of thousand maybe.
Yeah.
If you're
even
lucky.
the first time you have to build that, when you have to build the hyperlight drive in your ship, like to kind of tutorialize how you like get to a space station and interact with people there, it's like, oh, go buy 5 microchips, and they're like 15 grand each.
yeah.
And like, I think I had enough for 1.5, and like it just meant, okay, I now need to like sit there and it's like, all right, I can sell stuff, but then like, is this stuff that I should be selling because I may need it first?
Will I need this stuff to
Yeah.
craft the thing after this quest? And like,
Yeah,
it's
it
just like,
is very
it
weird the way
rewards-
it kind of deals things out.
it rewards your grinding by giving you more grinding.
Yeah.
Like, there's no payoff to the grind except another grind.
So I got into just because you were talking about the base building IY, so I got into the actual quest line for the base building, because obviously they introduced this stuff in layers and packs and stuff. So I assume this quest line came whenever they introduced base building, and it kind of let you bring people into your base, so you can get like a Gek, and he's like your like overseer, I think is his title, so he looks after your base and stuff while you're not there. And then you get like a maintenance guy and all this stuff, right? Every single time you go to them, they send you away to go, I need you to craft this for me, come back and I'll give you something else that you can craft. And I'm like, okay, at what point does any of this actually help me? So I got to the stage where I got to the scientist who's like, he helps you develop. I don't even tell you what helps you develop, because it's just, he doesn't do anything. But at one point, he's a robot. He's like, oh, I want you to take my AI out, go to this place so I can download something and bring me back. So you take him out and you go to it's like a satellite. You download the thing onto him and then you put him back in. It literally gives you a cooldown before you can speak to him again. I'd like to guess how long the cooldown is.
Like
1
20
hour.
minutes.
2.5 hours.
What?
Jesus.
2.5 hour cooldown just to speak to you
I
again.
didn't realize we were a Facebook mobile game or something. Like,
Like, what? Like, that is on par with the idea of, the Anthem thing we've talked about before, Nick, where they actually use the challenge as a gate, as like a story mission gate. Like, that's not okay. That is a case of it must be a very short quest and you're purposely padding it out. I threw the head out. That was the point where I actually stopped playing. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
so the point I stopped playing was my last jump. I went in, landed on the planet. I was supposed to like find some resource. I can't remember what it was. I just looked at the planet and went, this looks the exact same as the last planet I was on in a different system. Like, the plant life looks the same. Sure, the creatures don't look the same. But, like, the ground, like, the same hazard.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically identical to the last planet I was on. Except for, like, one resource, which I needed.
So
And I was just like, why? Why am I playing this?
Is there any gameplay bits that we kind of haven't touched? Because I honestly think there isn't much to the gameplay. I think the bits of the building I got to were okay. Like, you were kind of just snapping pieces together and made it look okay. It made it look nice. There is like some like space combat, isn't there? Like, in terms of like dogfighting shit, isn't there?
Yeah, it's
there
alright.
is. So this is the thing about, in my regards, it's towards the multi-tool, but it goes for the starships as well. Your upgrades don't transfer across if you upgrade your multi-tool or ship. You have to go and recraft them all over again, starting from scratch. So
Wait, if you buy a new ship?
yeah, if you buy a new ship, like you have to rebuild the warp drive again. You have to rebuild any any
after
blasters.
you bought a ship.
After you buy a new ship, you have to reinstall
it
everything.
doesn't come with all that stuff installed as standard.
So some of them will have like might have something installed. Like so, like say if you had like blasters Mark II, if the ship might have blasters Mark II, but that's only just if that ship has it. All your other stuff you have to recraft all
Screw
over
that.
again.
Screw that.
Same with the multi-tool.
That
your multi-tool,
sounds awful. I'm not gonna lie.
Your multi-tool as well. So like your terrain manipulator, if you put in like the lancer, the combat bit, all that stuff. If you buy a new one and if the new one doesn't have that already pre-installed, you have to recraft all that stuff again. Every single time.
Do you know what this sounds like? It just sounds like they're trying to get ways to people to stay playing the game.
Yeah, it 100% does.
They don't seem to care about the end game. They just want you to play for as long as you can.
It's frustrating because like the new multi-tools and stuff that I see, I'm like, because I got to the stage where like you need to fight the sentinels, and I was like, right, I need to fight so many sentinels to get the resource that falls out of them. I need I need a blaster that's on my multi-tool, and like my current multi-tool only had so many slots which were all filled. So I was like, right, and I saved up. I went to the Starship market, whatever you want to call it, bought a new one, which was not cheap. It was like 750,000 like units, and I bought it thinking that I could just like click and drag the things over. Nah, I had to restart from scratch for everything. I was like, well, I just wanted a gun. That's all I wanted.
That just reiterates my point of it rewards your grind. With a grind.
With more grind, yeah.
Is there any last gameplay thoughts? Obviously, a lot of us didn't really play that much of it to talk about a lot of the gameplay.
I'm trying to think of any more things that I hate.
Apart from all of it.
Some of the stupidity was fun. Like, so, Nick, you saw it a couple of times, me riding the animals.
Yeah.
Like that is fun and that is quirky. And there are a couple of things that did kind of make me go like, oh, okay, that was cool. Like, it's probably more to do with the planets and stuff, but there was once or twice I did kind of go like, all right, that was cool. But like, it was once or twice in 10 hours.
Yeah. So, the environments and creatures. When No Man's Sky was announced back in, like, I think it was announced, 2014, around that time, and it was kind of pitched as they had procedurally generated this whole like universe and like using like algorithms and things like that to generate like all these planets and all the fauna on the planet and all the creatures on the planet and different species of aliens. And like this was one of the big hooks was you have this entire universe to explore that had been realistically generated, and you never see the same creature twice on two different planets because that's just not how like the life would work. And I feel like this is a double-edged sword in certain aspects. One, because it feels like you do encounter a lot of just boring ass shit. Like, if the universe is left to do its thing, it doesn't actually generate all that many interesting things. There's a reason there isn't like mad fucking flying dinosaurs and cool ass creatures on Earth, is because it's not realistic, and turns out realism isn't all that fun in half the time. But then there's the other side of it where you do see, like, occasionally, whether they're interesting because they just look fucking ridiculous and they look stupid, or they're interesting because, it's actually a cool evolutionary thing. Like, some of the animals you see and things like that are interesting, but I just feel like as a whole, I feel like this idea of this procedure-generated world just doesn't pay off because there's just not enough interest. As realistic as that may be, it's just not interesting. Like, you end up, you kind of mentioned, like, all the planets kind of look, like, a lot of the planets kind of look the same. They're kind of just big, wide, red or green or whatever fucking color planes. And it's not interesting to see the same planet or what looks like a slight variation on the same planet 4 times.
It's like they took all their resources and just laid them out so thin that the odd like peak is so rare.
Yeah. So I can think of 3 planets I landed on that had something cool out of maybe 8 I visited, possibly, in like the 10 hours. Like, so I don't know if it's the same for every opening planet, but that giant worm thing, you see it in quite a lot of the trailers for this, for No Man's
the giant
Sky.
sandworm, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really cool. The first time you see that, that's pretty dope. But I also sit there and think, I wonder, do they put that in everyone's starting planet so that it kind of gives the false idea of like, ooh, this is going to be a game full of possibilities, isn't it? You know, that false hope. The other one that you actually walked in on me playing and you were like, oh, that planet looks kind of cool. It had like all the floating spires and lights and stuff. It was like a moon. And that, like, it was cool, but again, outside of that, there was nothing. The last one, which is like, yeah.
Oh, so like I want to, when you compare this to say other survival games, so like when you think back to say Minecraft or Starbound or kind of just really anything, like when you have this admittedly guided experience, it's interesting to go to like the different biomes or the different areas in say something like Minecraft where like, all right, you start in a relatively ordinary plains and then you start taking down, you start seeing like, oh, this is a generated dungeon and like the enemies that come along with that, and then you go to hell and things like that. In Minecraft and even in Valheim recently, like it's obviously set out in a way that there is progression there where you go from this area to this area to this area. And there's a reason that is kind of the accepted way of doing games and survival games, is because that's how you make them interesting. It's very easy to become like super overpowered in one area, and then when you go to the next area, you're completely fucked because it's a whole new area and a whole new thing. And when everything is procedurally generated and you have no guarantee what is going to be on the next planet, it can feel so like you are just doing the exact same thing for such long stretches of time.
Yeah, and I think that's as well, like with this game, because there's no progression in the standard way of like difficulty, you don't feel like you are progressing towards anything. You know, there's no constant combat, you know, say in like Valheim where you're fighting things, in Starbound where you're going planet to planet, and each time you go to the new planet for a relic, it's an upgrade, you know, in difficulty, so you feel like you are progressing. In this, because there's very little combat and it's just crafting, you don't feel like you're progressing towards anything. You know, you don't feel like you've been like, oh, I feel stronger. You don't feel that because there's nothing to feel strong against other than poor animals that are just walking across the land.
Like that was something I noticed as well. Is like there is not a lot of active combat early on. Like a lot of the combat I was just, oh, I decided to shoot an animal and then it got fucked off at me. I was never like, I was always the aggressor essentially. It just made me feel like a dick more than anything.
No, and like that doesn't really change. Like other than the Sentinels, which will attack you if you fuck with the planet too much. The only other time I really experienced combat was I was flying. I just entered a new system, and some dude pinged me on my transmitter. Was like, "You have to pay a toll," and it was only something like 250 units. I was like, "Okay, I'm not dying for 250 units. Sweet, yeah, take my money." And the other time, sorry, I did do a bounty once, and I got units for that, and I had to kill the guy. But the dogfighting, you're so far away from the things in space, you just feel like you're shooting at rocks. You know, it doesn't feel... It's not like, you know, Battlefront 2 where you're like skimming down over like cities and stuff, bombing
it's okay,
things.
You need to dehumanize the things the sentient beings you're killing. That's you just call them rocks. It's fine.
No, the dogfighting is
dog shite.
Yeah, it's not good. It's all right for what it is. You can tell it's not a main focus of the game.
Yeah, it holds up fine by itself. You compare it to the likes of Battlefront or Squadron or anything like that, it's not great.
Squadron coming to Game Pass soon.
Also, the language, how you learn the language of the things on the space stations is so stupid. Probably the worst thing they could have done.
Hi, I'm new to the system.
You learn it like one word at a time, don't you?
One word at a time.
Is it one word or one letter?
It's one word.
It's one word.
Okay.
Because it always goes like,
oh yeah, it is one word because it's like a word per stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, one word per stone, and if you go up to the aliens and actually speak to them,
some of them will be like, they taught me this word for friend or my species, which turns out is the exact same, spelled the same way. Didn't even know what that was.
So here's the thing, though, right? I'm just still. How many words are in the human language, right?
That's
It's quite a
why
lot.
would we know that off the top of our heads?
171,146. So does that mean I need to speak to aliens 171,146 times before I actually master the language?
Or,
is there like
find a stone on a planet.
or is there a cutoff point
Is
where
there
you
also
say
not
like, you hit
multiple languages you can learn?
Yeah, you do it for every alien species.
Okay.
But or does it get to the point where if I learn 100 words, I just know the language? I don't like. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I got up to like level 4 or 5 of the Gek, and I was like, all right, so I should know the language by now. I still couldn't understand the damn word they were saying.
Like it reminds me of Final Fantasy X and like the fact you can learn the like Albed language and that.
Let me tell you, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you. At least that was interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that was actually interesting because like as you learned it and as you learned it like a letter at a time, didn't you? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And like as you learned it actually filled in gaps in the story, and like it felt like you were actually learning stuff and you were being rewarded for going out of your way to find these things. Do you ever actually feel like you're being rewarded for learning these other languages? Because I feel like the words you learn just are so scattershot and disconnected from each other that even if you were to learn fucking 100 words, you'd still fucking be no closer to grasping what the fuck anyone is saying.
So,
and you're 100% right. Like, why not have it be that? Yeah, just learn the letters instead of the words, and then literally 26 stones later, boom, I know their language.
Yeah, so my first interaction with the language was I found a stone. It taught me a word. So I went to the space station. Everyone I talked to never said it.
Look, man, if you learn one word for a language, say like when we went to Denmark.
That's why.
If you learn one Danish word, are you guaranteed someone's going to say it?
That's why I'm saying it's such a stupid system.
But again, it's like it feels like yes, this goes back to they lean
Also,
so hard into the realism
that,
side of things that it's just like they didn't think of the practicality side of it.
The fact that the stones are so spread out as well, it almost encourages you to use your ship to fly about the planet, which then uses resource so you can launch. So like it's just like once again rewarding your grind with a grind.
There's a story in this.
Yes. But I didn't feel the point talking about it because none of us really experienced it.
I'll tell you about it.
Okay, Hans, tell secret fucking category. Hans, what is the story of No Man's Sky?
So, as you know, you start the game by waking up on a random planet with no memory of how you got there. It is heavily implied, but maybe confirmed towards the end, that you are a part of an exploring race, and you end up kind of like backtracking your way through. So you I don't know if he's got to the stage where you talk about the Artemis signal.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so you end up kind of...
No, Alex, that was Hades you're thinking of.
You triangle the Artemis signal, and it turns out she is also someone from this race.
Was there a Juicer signal?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't. But anyway, so like that's fine. You speak to her she kind of tells you need to do so many certain things. I believe overall there's 3 of these people that you interact, but you only ever talk with them via transmissions. There is one point which I will admit actually kind of made me feel. It was one of the very few times I went, okay, that was cool. So she ends up, she doesn't remember how, similar to you, she doesn't remember how she got to where she was. But she actually ends up dying live on transmission to you. And it's actually very sad because like she actually talks like, oh my god, I'm all alone. If I have family, they'll never find me. And it's like, I'm all alone and they're coming for me. And then it cuts out. And then you're just like, oh, that was sad. Guess I'll go find the second person then. The story is because it's told entirely through transmission logs, it is so dull. Like there's, again, similar to the world, there's maybe the occasional point where you go, oh, that was cool. But other than that, it's just, you're trying to figure out the mystery of who you are, where you're from, and how you got to where you are. Which should be cool. That should be a really cool idea. But again, because you're just going from planet to planet, interacting with people who have no connection to you, it's just dull and boring. It really is. The second guy who's like a robot, and he actually sends you on like you need to upgrade your base. like mission line. He's a complete tool. Like, he's the absolute bell end. But again, it's all done via transmission, and it won't, like, I cut out just before, like, he was like, oh, right, we're going to meet up, but I'm willing to bet I get there, and he's not actually there. You know, it's just, it needs more. I get, like, in survival games, the story is kind of like a loose narrative thread, just to kind of keep you going.
Yeah.
But this was just, again, dog shite. Really was dog shite.
So, the final category, which I've only really added as a category because of recent talk in the gaming zeitgeist. What makes a good survival game? Recently, and I'm sure we've already talked about it on this show, and I've talked about it that I've been playing it to you guys. Valheim was released. A game in early access came out on Steam called Valheim, and it is, at its core, a survival game. And when it was released, there was a lot of buzz, a lot of hype around it, and got a lot of really positive traction on Twitch and various gaming news sites. And I didn't understand it. Did not understand why the fuck this random fucking early access survival game was suddenly so big. Outside of survival games are typically kind of good for streamers and shit like that. I play Valheim myself, and it completely fucking blew me away because it finally clicked in my head why. Personally, I don't really like survival games, and what makes of Valheim such a popular survival game for people like me who aren't fans of them, and why it has permeated through to like mainstream gaming media and people who wouldn't normally associate with them sorts of games. Mm-hmm. And it's the fact it feels like a survival game that respects your time as a player. So in Valheim, or say, as we kind of mentioned it in No Man's Sky, there's a lot of it is resource balancing and juggling resources and constantly feeling like, oh, something is depleting because I'm not constantly looking after it. Whereas Valheim swings the opposite direction in terms of its survival mechanics, where if you engage with them, yes, you will be at a massive advantage because you will have a higher health limit and things like that because you're eating properly and you're not cold, so you'll regenerate stamina faster. And engaging with survival mechanics makes your time with the game easier, but not engaging with them doesn't necessarily mean your whole time is going to be an absolute fucking disaster. And it respects your time as a player. And I feel like that is what has now clicked to me, that this is what I enjoy in these sorts of games. Minecraft, to a lesser extent, still does the same. As like Minecraft, you could not really engage with the survival aspects of it and just have a fun time building. Valheim, you don't need to massively engage with the survival aspects of it, and you can still have an absolutely fucking incredible time because it's so enjoyable at its core. And the survival mechanics just make your life easier rather than hindering you at every step. You're never worried about like coming up and saying, oh, you don't have the resource to do X or Y. It just makes your life easier if you engage with those things. And it really fucking clicked for me. It's like while I was playing it just really clicks like, this is why I haven't been enjoying No Man's Sky, is because it just doesn't feel like it respects my time. If I destroy something in No Man's Sky, I don't get the resources back. Whereas in Valheim, anything you build and then say, oh, I've put this in the wrong place, destroying it gives you every single bit of those resources back. Like, you're not punished for making a mistake. Yeah. And it just really... And I just thought it was really funny that Valheim came out in this month where we're playing No Man's Sky, and it just, like... I enjoy... Like, the bits I played in No Man's Sky, it was completely fine, and it was playable. Did I enjoy playing it? Not massively, but it was never offensively bad to me. But then suddenly playing Valheim just shown, like, I saw No Man's Sky in this whole new light. It's like, this is, like, why would anyone want to play this when there is something like Valheim there? And it just really fucking struck a chord with me, and it just made me realize this is why I personally am not a massive fan of a lot of survival games. And I'm wondering then, what is your guys' opinion on this idea of what makes a good one of these games for you guys? Yeah. And like, what would it take for you to actually engage with one of these types of games? Obviously, knowing that, like, Hans, you put a lot of time into Starbound, Alex, you put a lot of time, I think, into Starbound as well. And I don't know what the fuck you play these days.
you look like a Minecraft guy. I probably. So.
Hey, I've never played Minecraft.
So for me personally, there are two things I really want out of a survival crafting game, right? One, I want a sense of progression. So Starbound had a sense of, you were looking for relics of each of the 6 civilizations. As you found one, you went to a new system which had more difficulty, and that was, it's a standard progression in a game. You know, the further you get in, the more difficult you get, and you can see the progression happening. I want that. Minecraft as well, to an extent, has that kind of now compared to what it was. Like, there's bosses you seek out, you create portals and stuff. I think now you go to them and you beat the bosses in Minecraft. That's what I want. I also want it to stand on its own 2 feet as a solo experience and as a multiplayer experience. I don't like multiplayer games or I don't like survival games where you have to play multiplayer for it to be an experience. I think, again, you're saying for us personally, that's just me. I want to be able to play something by myself, and if I want to, play it with my friends. I don't want to be forced to play with randos. You know, Starbound again, I played that pretty much all by myself, bar a couple of times I played with people. Minecraft I played for a bit. It's, you know, I get that Minecraft's maybe a wee bit different because there's a subculture in Minecraft which is just people love to build. That's fine. That's just what people love to do. There's more like an art tool than a game. But again, Minecraft you can play by yourself or with people, and you can stand up either way. Yeah. Those are the 2 things for me I want from a good survival game.
Suppose and Alex, we definitely spent a lot of time playing Don't Starve a couple of months ago.
That's good.
Yeah. And that's a game I would say I enjoyed playing, but again, going back now and looking at it compared to playing Valheim, it does shine a much more negative light on it. But I get also, to be honest, Don't Starve is less about these massive long spanning games, and you're probably more expected to go through a lot of lives and just figure out how to do things a lot more efficiently in something like Don't Starve. And I'm wondering then, how does Don't Starve compare to, say, something like No Man's Sky for you guys?
So for me, I think the important part is what are you trying to survive from, right? Because the issue I have with a lot of games like Valheim, right, or Rust or whatever, is that what is the inherent danger? Right? Because if it's just starvation, that's not very interesting, in my opinion. That's I'm doing that in real life, right? I don't need to do that in a game. Which is the main reason why I probably won't get into a game like Valheim, right? Or rather, if I did, it would be to build shit,
hey,
right?
Man,
which is not what that game is about.
There's no hunger gauge in Valheim.
Is there not?
No.
So that's the thing, right? That's the thing there. It's so why is that counting as a survival game? What are you surviving?
In terms
it's
of
the odd creature at nighttime, right?
It's a survival game in the same sense that I would the world is trying to kill you at all times, and you can't it is a very light
you walking into a fire is not the world trying to kill you.
I would say Valheim is a survival game. The fact it almost has survival game mechanics that don't kill you if you don't engage with them. There is a hunger, and eating things does increase your max health, but not eating won't kill you. You can be cold and you can mitigate against that, but being too cold won't kill you.
That's right. So in my opinion, there's no sense of urgency in any of these games, right? And so for me, it's they probably walk along this middle ground, which people kind of maybe want. But for me, it's just go all the way, in one way or the other. Just either be this really casual game, or fucking everything, everything's literally trying to kill you. In Don't Starve, literally everything tries to kill you in Don't Starve. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this genre, even though in my mind, I should love this shit.
Yeah, they're roguelites.
But whenever you actually play a game, yeah, but they're not roguelites, right?
Yeah,
because a lot of these games, it's the issue I had with or one of the issues I would have had if I played it more was you start there is no progression, but you always start over, which is really crap. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just think, yeah, I think like I said again, I think it's just the sense of urgency. What am I actually trying to survive from? And I don't think any of these games really do that well. But I do think Don't Starve does it well. I think. What do you think, Alex?
So
that was a good impression, eh? Good job.
The biggest thing for me was the idea of having a hub, because Starbound, you can have a home planet that you can go back to pretty easily. Terraria and Minecraft,
you also have a ship in Starbound, don't you?
It's even you even have your ship as well, which you can build on.
It's just like you always have this hub that you can always go back to.
You always have home, Alex.
Yeah,
You always have
You
home.
don't need resources to go back there. So in No Man's Sky, the fact that yes, you can set up a network to get back to, your hub. The fact that you have to go through so many steps to do it, it's just like, why? Because like, there's no sense of like, there's no security if you don't have a base. You're kind of just out there, and if you want to do something, you have to go back like so far. Because say you set up a base in the first spot, and that's your hub. If you jump 3 times, like, and you establish like a portal network on each like galaxy or whatever, that's a crap ton of resources you've just established to get like all these resources back to your hub that you probably don't visit that much because you're too busy trying to gather all this other crap. So it's like that plus the progression and all the other stuff that was mentioned.
Yeah.
So is there any last thoughts before we wrap up for the evening?
The Game Awards are a pile of shite. The fact that this won an award.
So, personally for me, No Man's Sky is... I went in, like, when I decided to stop playing it, I was very middling on it. This is the conclusion, by the way, just in case.
Oh, okay. We're ending things.
Yes.
I was very middling on it, and then, as I mentioned, like, playing Valheim kind of completely changed my perception of the game, and I don't like No Man's Sky. I think I appreciate, like, after the shit show that it launched as, I do appreciate that, yes, they stuck with it and they've continually tried to better it. I personally just don't think there is I don't want to say a worthwhile game to better there in the first place, but a game that appeals to me, a game that if I was the one making that decision about whether, oh, you should keep putting patches out for this, like 5 years later, I would have said, no, just do something else, guys. What he's doing. It's not for me, and I don't think there are very few survival games I think will be for me personally. Hans.
No Man's Sky at its best is boring, but occasionally makes you kind of go, oh, all right, that was kind of cool. At its worst, it's just downright bad with some really frustrating design choices. It feels like they didn't research a survival game before they made it. And it baffles me that they're continuing to put out content for this while not fixing some of their prior design choices. One of the ones that comes directly to my mind is I ran out of fuel with no resources. My the boost fuel on my starship with no resources to top it up. So it took me 15 minutes to get to where I needed to get to. Which, if that can happen to you, is not a good design choice.
Alex.
That's my decision.
All I'll say is at least Icy had a good soundtrack.
Hey, I actually quite like the music in this, to be fair. IOI.
Okay, can I ask a question first?
Go ahead.
Because obviously my conclusion is not going to be very interesting because I didn't play very much of it. But can you guys name me a game, a procedure? I know this game is not procedurally generated, but a game that uses procedurally generated, like a big like 3D game like this. Because obviously, whenever I think of procedurally generation, it's like all the roguelites I play, right, which are mostly like 2D and like quite small scale. But like, can you guys name me like a big game?
It's not
Minecraft.
big, but Minecraft. But I know obviously it's not like realistic 3D.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, because even in Minecraft, like to make a world, like could you imagine like jumping between Minecraft worlds? Like it would be the same shit as well, right? Like you'd have that same feeling. So like I'm just thinking that like this kind of system to do multiple times just seems like a bit out of reach at the moment, unless you guys can name me a game, because I can't think of one currently.
Spore was procedurally generated.
Yeah, so Spore's always like the obvious one that like it's really old. It's kind of hard to like think about now.
And it's 3D, just
because I'm thinking of like a modern thing now where like yeah, I don't know. I just think we're gonna need more tries at this kind of stuff before I think someone's gonna get it right. Unfortunately. But yeah, I didn't play No Man's Sky, so I can't really sit here and recommend anyone else play No Man's Sky. That's my conclusion.
That's your hot take. I didn't play it, so you shouldn't play it.
Play 30 minutes and then give up.
I don't know. We actually played it for a long time, actually.
It was like 2 hours,
evening.
yeah. It was like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. We all disconnected at one time or another.
Hey, I didn't.
Okay.
On console, I had no issue except for the load
There you go,
times.
guys. If you best experience for No Man's Sky multiplayer, the original Xbox One.
Sorry,
No,
just
1S. It's a 1S.
Oh, it's a 1S. Okay, sorry. Overall, fairly negative opinions all around on No Man's Sky. Go play Valheim, I say.
Nick, would you get off Valheim's dick?
Oh, Hans, if that comes out of early access this year, it might be my game of the year.
I hate you.
Hey Nick, you know if this video is sponsored, you have to say it, right? If it's.
I
sponsored by
wish.
Valheim,
If Valheim wants to sponsor me, you want to send me over a free copy of Valheim, thank you.
I still reckon that we could get a Crunchyroll sponsor, because everyone can get a Crunchyroll sponsor. Or Audible.
Maybe when
Squarespace.
I finally get around to making this an actual podcast and not just a video podcast.
Yeah.
We'll see. But before we wrap up for the evening, IY, it is your turn to pick as we go into March. So, what will we be playing?
Okay, so I've actually just changed my mind on what I was going to say. Because I feel like all this negativity, we need something decent, right? And, to celebrate my new PC, guys, shout out to Nick for sending me a graphics card.
No
right?
problem.
And more importantly, Bungie for sending me a whole
load
load of shit.
Bungie who sent you like 75% of the PC.
Yeah, he sent a lot of parts, and it works well for the most part. And of course, there was only one game that I ever wanted to have an actual PC to play, and that is Monster Hunter World, guys. And so, after going through the preamble of talking about Monster Hunter World X Pokemon, until then, we're just going to play regular Monster Hunter World.
Can I ask what the other game you were going to pick was?
So, the one that was on one of your wish lists. So Alex we already spoke about it the other day, actually. It was actually on Hans' wish list.
Oh.
And it was Sherlock Holmes.
Oh.
The Devil's Daughter, is it?
Yeah, because it is like 90% off, and it's like £1 something. And I was like, we haven't played like a story, like detective-y game in a while, because I feel like we do that a lot. Like, between like Danganronpa and all the fucking FMV games.
Yeah.
Like...
Do you know what my words
Shift wasn't a detective.
you know
You
what
say that as if the character was called Late Shift. He wasn't. Shift wasn't a detective.
It's probably a good thing, because I actually did say to Nick, like, Bullfrog, who I think is the guys that make that, somebody to take fucking Sherlock Holmes off of them, because they are bastardizing that poor man.
So yes, join us at the end of March where we'll be coming back to discuss. Can I just confirm? Are you including Iceborne in this?
No. OG Monster Hunter.
Just
I think
OG Monster Hunter. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, join us at the end of March when we come back to discuss Monster Hunter World. But for now, it is a goodbye from Hans.
Have a good one.
A goodbye from Alex.
See you later.
A goodbye from IY.
I don't even know why I was here in the first place.
Because we're a force of...
Companionship.
It's
Yeah, it's
nice
called
just to
foreplay,
chat to your
not
friends
foreplay.
sometimes, IY. And a goodbye from myself. See you next time.